What could possibly be more important than this? Kathleen asked. They took their seats, the frontmost row by the second-level railing, a perfect view of both the screen and all the people beneath. Staring angrily at your bedroom wall, as you have been doing these few months? Juliette frowned. I have not been doing merely that. Oh, pardon me. How could I forget screaming at politicians? Huffing, Juliette leaned back into her seat. She crossed her arms tightly over her chest, the beads along her sleeves clinking loudly against the beads dangling from her front. Grating as the sound was, it contributed only a small fraction to the general bedlam of the theater. Papa's already giving me enough grief for upsetting that nationalist, Juliette grumbled. She started to take inventory of the crowd below, mentally assigning names to faces and keeping track of who might notice that she was here. Don't you get on my case, too? Kathleen tutted, setting her elbow onto the armrest between them. I am only concerned, Barme. Concerned about what? I'm always screaming at people. Lord Ty doesn't reprimand you often. I think that might be an indicator of... Juliette lurched forward. Out of sheer instinct, a gasp rose in her throat, but she refused to let it out, and instead the sound lodged itself tightly in place, an ice-cold sensation pressed up against the back of her tongue. Kathleen immediately jerked to attention, too, searching the floor below for whatever it was that had drained Juliette's face utterly of blood. What? Kathleen demanded. What is it? Do I call for backup? No, Juliette whispered, swallowing hard. The theater dimmed. Taking their cue, the ticket boys started to walk the aisles, forcing the crowd to settle for the picture. It is only a small hiccup. Her cousin's brows were furrowed, still searching. What is it? Kathleen repeated. Juliette simply pointed. She watched as Kathleen followed the direction in which she was indicating. Watched as the realization set in, when they were both looking at one figure pushing his way through the crowd. It would appear we were not the only ones sent here for a task. Because down on the ground level, looking like he had not a care in the world, Roma Montegov smiled and stopped in front of the merchant they were after, extending his hand for the merchant to shake. Juliette curled her fists tightly into her lap. She had not seen Roma since October, since the first protests in Nanshi shook the city and set the precedent for those that were to follow when winter swept into Shanghai. She had not seen his physical person, but she had felt his presence everywhere. In the corpses littered across the city with lily-white flowers clutched in their stiff hands. In the business partners disappearing out of the blue with nary a message or explanation. In the blood feud making its mark. Ever since the city caught wind of a confrontation between Roma Montegov and Tyler Ty, the blood feud had shot back into its most terrible heights. Neither gang needed to worry about their numbers being picked off by the madness anymore. Instead, their thoughts circled retribution and honor. And as different mouths ran different accounts of what had happened between the inner circles of the Scarlet Gang and the White Flowers that day, the only definitive truths that came out were this. In a tiny hospital along the edges of Shanghai, Roma Montegov had shot at Tyler Ty, and to protect her cousin, Juliette Ty had killed Marshal Saw in cold blood. Now both sides were vengeful. Now the White Flowers were pressing down on the Scarlet Gang with a renewed urgency, and the Scarlet Gang were fighting back just as hard. They had to. No matter how carefully the Scarlets cooperated with the nationalists, every single person in this city could feel something shifting, could see the gatherings growing larger and larger each time the communists attempted a strike. The political landscape was soon to change, soon to swallow up this way of lawlessness.